Welcome back folks, my name's Shane. In today's video we're checking out the affordable and compact Viltrox 56mm f1.7 APS-C prime lens for the Sony E-mount. That's right, it's a dedicated APS-C lens which is great for portraits, interviews or talking headshots thanks to that full frame equivalent 84mm field of view. Now this gives us an f1.7 aperture, and if you compare that to full frame, it's the same shallow depth of field equivalent as about f2.5, which is right in line with the full frame lens of basically the same series here. So if you've got a few of these already, they should match both visually and optically. Just a quick disclaimer before we get into this video, Viltrox has supplied this lens to the channel, which is why it says paid promotion somewhere on screen, but Viltrox has no input into this video, nor gets to preview it ahead of time, and all thoughts about this are my own as always. I'll give you my thoughts at the end of the video. Let's get into it. Included in the box, we get a user manual and warranty card, a microfiber carry bag, and of course the lens itself. This lens comes with both a front and rear lens cap, and also this cool little lens hood which clips into place beautifully, and I have no issues with the build quality here. The front filter thread is 52mm and it works fine using my Hader Pro variable ND filter. As you can see from the lens, it is plastic, but it's small, lightweight, and it feels exactly like their full frame lens that I reviewed recently here on the channel. The focus ring is focused by wire and it feels great to use. I had no trouble pulling focus whatsoever. Weighing in at only 170 grams, this lens is a perfect companion for traveling light while still getting excellent background blur and subject separation. The rear lens mount is metal and we get a USB-C port here to update the firmware. To update the firmware, you just need to connect the lens itself to your computer and it will show up as a drive. From there, you just drag and drop the new firmware file into that drive and that's it. It's nice and simple. It's definitely one of the quickest ways to update firmware I've seen for any lens system. While we get excellent autofocus with this lens thanks to those STM motors, there's no autofocus manual focus switch on here, nor is there any sort of aperture ring, so you'll need to control everything via your camera. And this is how Viltrox were able to keep the price down to only $180 at the time of filming, which is excellent value. This autofocus lens offers STM stepping motors, so you get very fast and snappy autofocus performance. And much like the other Viltrox lenses I've recently reviewed on the channel, it feels like a far more expensive lens when it comes to its autofocus performance, which is excellent. It had no trouble pulling focus as I walk towards or away from the camera, or if I'm using touch to focus using the flip out screen on the camera. Let's take a quick look at the autofocus in a little bit more detail. So as I'm moving toward and away from the camera, it's found my eye, it's tracking me, no problems whatsoever. I can tell by the focus peaking and box, it's doing a really great job. Let's jump out of frame. It finds the background with confidence. As I jump back in, it snaps nice and quickly back to my face and eye. Now, if you're going to be holding something up in front of your face, it does the transition nice and smoothly as well, and also very fast. So I like the fact that this lens is as snappy as it is. These STM stepping motors do a really great job at finding focus each and every time. So yeah, I have no complaints with this. One thing I have noticed with this lens is you can hear it. I can hear it here in the room, but you won't be able to hear it on my microphone. Now, unless you're a weirdo using the onboard camera microphones, I don't think this noise will be a problem. It definitely won't be picked up in any sort of recording. I only notice it when I do drastic focus pulls from something close to something far away and back. I don't know if it's just my hearing, but I can't hear it. I can just hear it in that sort of scenario. Yeah, but it's very minimal. When it comes to photography, I use mostly autofocus single shot mode, and for my tests, it works great, but AFC also works great. So if you like to use continuous autofocus, this is very responsive. The minimum focusing distance is 55 centimeters or 0.55 meters. This means, unfortunately, you can't get too close to a subject if you're doing something like product photography. That said, for portraits and general photography, it works fine. I'll just shoot one of these poles here and show you how close you can actually get. Background blur and subject separation is awesome here. Yeah, right around there is the minimum focusing distance. All right, let's talk about using this lens for video. Now, if you're a gimbal or tripod shooter, this lens is excellent, but I did have quite a tough time getting stable results with this lens paired with my Sony FX30 when shooting handheld. Now, you can of course run that footage through Catalyst Browser. If you want to do that, that's definitely an option. But I found it really hard because this has no optical image stabilization and the Sony FX30 IBIS isn't anything to email home about. It's not great. So yeah, being that this is a pretty tight focal length, all of my footage looked pretty shaky. Again, if you're a gimbal shooter or using this on a tripod for an interview situation, it's going to look excellent. Now, stabilization of the camera isn't really a fault of the lens whatsoever, but I want to put this in here in case you're a run and gun shooter looking for this exact focal length. Let's talk about bokeh and sharpness. Now, one of the advantages of this lens being that it's f1.7, you get nice creamy background blur, but another advantage to it is you get tack sharp in focus areas. Even at f1.7, the image looks nice and sharp. Some might find the background blur of this lens to look a tad busy, but I find it really makes the subject pop, but you can be the judge for yourself. Whether you're shooting at f1.7, f4, or 5.6, the sharpness is on point, and I have no complaints with it. You will notice some issues with this lens in regards to flaring and sunstar quality, and while this lens does suffer from quite a bit of flaring, the sunburst or starburst effect is pretty average at best. This is maybe the biggest weakness of this lens, at least in my testing here. There's also some slight chromatic aberration when shooting wide open at f1.7 in high contrast situations. Like most fast lenses, you will see a little bit of that, but it's definitely, again, not a deal breaker considering the price of this lens. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, hit all notifications so you can be notified of my next video. Thanks again for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.